Hey, good evening. Good evening. This is the Cut Podcast, and I'm Jay Jones, your host, and also the host of Jay Jones Conversations. Tonight, what I wanted to do a little differently is I actually wanted to do some current events discussions, um, kind of ask you what some of your perspectives are around some of the topics that we're hearing in the media today, and then um, offer a little bit of my own perspective, whether it's a political perspective or a social impact perspective. I think that there's this level of chaos that we're having right now is a little bit tiresome or a little bit exhausting for a lot of people, me included. And I think that what we should be doing is trying to find the root causes of some of these things that we have, and some of us know what those root causes are. But of course, public opinion where everyone is fearful, it's a little bit difficult to voice some of those things. And again, my organization is called J Jones Conversations. I believe because with the experience that I have and with the background that I have in law and civil rights and minority issues, minority affairs, women's affairs. I think it gives me a little bit of credibility to be able to kind of share with you some of my perspectives. And then, if logic is required to help you understand what the impact really means for you, then I'm hopeful that I can be a soundboard for for that conversation. How do you have those conversations? At the end of the day, what is your end game? What is your reason for wanting to have those conversations? And of course, in the space, that would be, usually it's a financial decision or a decision that will impact finances. However, sometimes in the social setting, it's more about getting people to understand each other and where they came from and why they believe what they believe and why they'll probably have the perspective that they have going forward. So, you know, those are challenging, but in the workplace, even you need to have those conversations. Sometimes, though structured, um, you need those conversations so that you can, um, get along and everyone in the workplace can get along. So, and I didn't really test my sound, so I hope it's working tonight. Hope it's working tonight. But so the first thing I think I want to discuss is, um, the I guess the media's play on the protest in Los Angeles um, over immigration, and ICE activities. So for me, it's one of those things where I've spoken with some friends of mine, and you know, they're kind of on both sides of the fence. Some say, this is not a black issue, and black folks should sit it out, and and let's wait to see what happens. But some others are more like, no, this is a black issue because um, what this is kind of like, I think, in the words of Mayor Bass in LA, she said she thinks that LA is being used as a test subject basically for to see how or what they can get away with, and then maybe move this activity to other cities. So, and I kind of agree with her. But in terms of black and brown, I mean, I think we're all black. So I think when we look at race as being a social structure, uh, if it's not white, then it's black. And that's just kind of the way this all goes. We can create all these other, you know, ethnicity titles and race titles and all these other things. But, there's a 1% rule that used to be, good back in the day. I think it's good now, and that is one drop equals black or some shade of it. So um, I don't believe we should sit it out. I really believe that our voices, everyone's voices should be heard, and that's in whatever way you can provide your voice, um, want to be heard loudly. I think it's totally wrong and lawless of what our government is doing right now, and I believe that unless the people stand up to that, it'll just our rights will be taken. And having served in the military for all the years that I did, you know, I I fought to defend that from happening. And I think that anyone who's in the military now who is obeying an illegal order just because someone keeps saying it's for the country and it's actually not, it's for the person. I hope that they understand also that their oath says they will defend our Constitution and our country from enemies, both foreign and domestic. So when you're trying to figure out who that enemy is, you think who's going against the Constitution, and the Constitution has checks and balances for a reason. And because of that, those who are trying to thwart that checks and balances would be considered the enemy, not the people who are trying to protect their rights under the Constitution. So I did want to, give that input because I think, where the media is letting us all down, the mainstream media is letting us all down, is the sensationalism is allowing them to continue to tell half truths, and that's not healthy for anyone. The mere fact that the media would label protest riots, you know, uh, when there were no riots or no violence until the the president of the United States called in the National Guard. And along with the National Guard, I'm sure there were other National Guardsmen who showed up in face mask coverings and pretended to be protesters and got things started. So that's my claim, and I could care less whether anybody thinks it's conspiracy. Um, it's the truth. I think it's the truth. It happened during the Michael Brown protest. It happened during the George Floyd protest. So who's to say that? Well, I would definitely say it's happening now. So um, again, we have to understand that it's greater than us. It is all about, you know who's defending the Constitution and who's not. And whether that be a general citizen or the president of the United States, if they're not doing what is constitutional, what is within that checks and balances, then it's not right, and that would make them the enemy. So we have to really recognize that the people who are out here trying to get people to believe that there are enemies of the state, so to speak, are doing nothing more than spreading propaganda and lies. So we have to be, as citizens of the United States and born here, and whether you're born or nationalized and became a citizen, you have a constitution to protect. So we should all keep that in the back of our minds while we sit back and watch this stuff happen, which isn't a good thing either. I don't think anybody should really be sitting back and allowing something to happen as long as they have the power to be able to, to make something else happen or to help it not happen. I should say that's the best way to put it. But I'm trying to see who's online. Can you uh, enter yourself in the chat just so I can see who's here? I can't really tell. But so other current events is that there is a lawsuit that has been filed against the current administration regarding the election itself, and the numbers not adding up in New York. So I'm I'm eager to see what news is out there other than this one story that was in, I think it was the editorial tonight or something like that. Um, that was, but it was editorial online, editorial today online or something. Um, it was a foreign newspaper. So we we I really want to know more about that. So so I'm hopeful that that there will be a follow-up article. It talks about the fact that they'll have a hearing September 22nd, and then after that, it doesn't say much. It doesn't say much else. Um, uh, However, the Economic Times, that's the name of the paper. So the Economic Times has an article out in today's paper that from this morning at 2:53 in the morning, their time, which is more like yesterday for us. But the title of the article says, Kamala Harris election result, Trump's victory under scrutiny as a lawsuit is filed, and it talks about what could happen next. And it says that the Smart Legislation Group, which is a nonpartisan group. It's a legal advocacy group that filed a lawsuit in Rockland County, New York. So it moved to the Rockland County court, and they're calling for a recount of ballots from the 2024 election, claiming that votes for Kamala Harris and other candidates were not properly counted by voting machines. Um, so they've scheduled a hearing for September 22nd, 2025. And it says that could really reveal more about what really happened with the vote count. Now, the reason I bring this up is because earlier this week, there was a post that Elon Musk made on Twitter about about President Trump would not have won the election had it not been for him, and that the Senate would be 51-49 in favor of the Democrats. So, it's really, really, really weird, and the I guess the significance of it is a lot of us have been saying this since election day, since last election day, and Elon Musk was sent out ahead of Trump, sent out ahead of the election day with his computer gurus and sent to the swing states, and now all of a sudden uh, Trump wins an unprecedented victory in the swing states. And I think what they want us to believe, they meaning mainstream media, is that America is just so divided that we would never, of course, never vote for a black woman, even though democracy was at stake. And I think that's where it's just too unreal for anyone to believe that, because I don't believe that part is true. I think we are not as divided as they try and say we are. And it's the media's job to maintain some type of animosity among us, among the people of this country, so that we can keep having something for them to talk about in the news. But but it's interesting. I mean, I would really like to know what people think regarding whether or not Elon Musk actually left because the stock of Tesla was tanking, because SpaceX was failing, you know, and so forth. And then all of a sudden, it's this love spat between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and that is, we're supposed to now be kind of moved over into that conversation, when really it doesn't matter if they're arguing or not, as long as Elon goes ahead and spills the beans and lets us know that he actually did steal the election for Trump, which is what a lot of us believe. He and his computer gurus went in and manipulated those machines, and that's why the numbers have not been numbering in a number of the swing states. So we'll see how that turns out. We'll see how that turns out. So then I've seen people on Facebook discussing. I've seen people on Instagram discussing it. Um, this idea that uh, this idea that somehow um, the Congress and the presidency, or how the Democrats and the Republicans, I'm sorry, that somehow the Democrats and Republicans are silent on this whole thing. And you know, I totally agree. They're way too silent. They're allowing the president to literally single-handedly take over, the actions of the country. And you know, Congress, though weakened by all of those who are beholden to Donald Trump, they still have a responsibility to their constituents. I mean, I've been watching some of the media reports about, you know, senators and House members going back to their districts, and the constituents are really going off on them and holding them accountable for their votes, especially on Medicaid and Medicare, um, and a few other things. You know, I think that I think it's time to, well, Congress is something else that needs to be revamped. The times have changed, and if the times changing and Congress is not, then we have a problem. And I think that right now we have people who have been there way too long, that their allegiance to the corporate dollar and to the lobby is greater than their allegiance to their own constituency. So I think term limits would help that, and I've been calling for term limits now since probably 2011 or 2012 or something like that. But I think until we have a real serious conversation about term limits and be truthful with ourselves regarding who needs to go, and that's some Democrats and some Republicans that need to go. They've just been there way too long, and nothing they are doing is in the benefit for the benefit of the people of this country. So that's my thoughts on that. Um, yeah, yeah, that's my thoughts on that, and I hope others will, take a stand and talk, aloud about how we can't expect people from 4 generations ago or 3 generations ago to determine what needs to happen in the future, or even if they're interested in doing so. I think right now they're more interested in maintaining millionaire and billionaire status and getting the money that their lobbyists are giving them than they are protecting the values of this country. So that to me is partially why we are where we are. Let's see, I still don't know who this is. Um, oh, here we go. So the next, let's see. So I was gonna wait and see if anybody had anything for the chat, but of course I go back and I look at these. So if you leave something in the chat after I log off, or if you're watching this later and you have a comment or you have a question, even, please feel free to leave it in the chat, and we can talk about it, one on one if you like, or we can talk about it, in other social media platform chat rooms as well, like Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. So speaking of LinkedIn, Um, Another thing I like to get opinions on is, and the scenario is this: if right now politics is at the heart of division for a lot of people in the US, I don't know the exact number, but a lot of people in the US, then why is it that people act like they're afraid to talk about politics at work? Um, you know, when I worked in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I had groups of employees who would send me messages and say, "Hey, we want a Jewish group, or we want a Christian group, or whatever the case may be," and my response to them was, "Well, unless we're going to have a group for all 114 represented religions, then we can't do that, you know." Um, and the other thing is, if we know that, division, religion has been a, a big division piece for us, why would we want to do that? Um, I mean, if anybody has any response to that, I'd love to know, because that's a question I really can't answer. I think, though, that sometimes people mistake economic oppression with economic freedom. And what I mean by that is, you feel like because you have power within an organization in terms of your numbers, um, you want to say it loud enough to where you try and influence others to either become a part of it or to feel like they are disadvantaged because they're not a part of it. And that's where I kind of draw the line in terms of agreement with or disapproval of uh, those types of organizations, employee resource groups, for instance, at work. And that's what I would consult with leadership if I were asked. Is that, I don't think, I think we can talk about religion in terms of how it has caused wars around the world, and why. But I don't think that we should offer offer anything purposely to try and bring light to one religion over the other. I just I just don't think that's the case. Um, Look, I feel like I'm in class. I'm about to say, are there any any questions? But I do see that I have at least one viewer. Um, I wish I could get I wish I could get a um, I could get someone to type in for me the latest articles that they see. So I know that today there were quite a bit of other things going on. So like they're in the commentaries. I've been looking at the commentaries for different websites today, and in those commentaries, it's really interesting that people just seem so afraid to talk. It's it's just really hard. It's hard to fathom things being the way a lot of people are afraid for them to be, but unwilling to challenge. And I think that's probably one of the most frustrating things about anything. But as far as we go along, we'll have people here that will discuss that with us. I do realize the time has come for us to end tonight's conversation. So I will close out here. I do want to say, keep your head up. Remember that the power is in each individual person in this country as voters. We will get to the bottom of the 2024 election, and I know that there is urgency on behalf of some people to try and get things to be as bad as they can. because they know that day is coming. So let's just all be diligent in looking out for each other and know that the better days are coming for us. And I have no doubt that our system will work eventually. So, again, I'm Jay Jones, the host of the Cut Podcast. Please go to thecut.com. That is THEKUTT.com, which is my website where you will find all of my social media links, including LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and I will, and also LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and X. So I will look forward to speaking with you again soon. If you have any questions, please don't forget to offer those questions. And two, if you go to my Instagram page, you may find an opportunity for you and the people at your business to have a conversation with me about um, what it's like to be a good leader of teams and 5 essential conversations that you should always have as a team leader with your team. All right, take care and we'll talk later. Good night.